Hello everyone, it's Mr. Pierce. Today we're going to be doing some more adding of mixed numbers, but today we're going to have some where we have to do some renaming. When we look at this first problem, we see 3 1/7 plus 1 1/2. First thing we should look at is the denominators, and we will notice that they are not the same. So once again, we can make them have the same denominator by simply multiplying the 7 and the 2. 7 times 2 is 14. So we can change both of these fractions to 14ths. Now you'll notice I left room to bring over my whole number. That's an important step. All right, so what times 2 gives me 14? That would be 7. So if I multiply by 7 in my denominator, I must do the same to the numerator. 1 times 7 is 7. So 1 1/2 is equal to 1 7/14. In the top one, we see 7 and 14. Well, 7 times 2 is 14. So if I multiply by 2 in my denominator, I must do the same to the numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. So 3 1/7 is the same as 3 2/14. Now we can simply add. 2/14 plus 7/14 is 9/14. 3 plus 1 is 4. Will 9/14 simplify? The answer is no. The factors of 9 are 1, 3, and 9. Okay, there's nothing times 3 that gives you 14 and nothing times 9 that gives you 14, so the greatest common factor would be 1, so it is already in lowest terms. In this next problem, the first thing we notice is that, again, the two problems do not have the same denominator. We can make them have the same number of pieces by simply multiplying the two denominators together. 3 times 2, of course, is 6. And we can change each of these fractions to 6th. Again, you will notice I leave room to bring over my whole number. You can't forget that step. Okay, in the bottom one, what times 2 gives me 6? That would be 3. So if I multiply by 3 in my denominator, I do the same to my numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. So 1 1/2 is the same as 1 3/6. In the top one, what times 3 gives me 6? That would be 2. So if I multiply by 2 in my denominator, I must do the same to the numerator. 2 times 2 is 4. So 1 2/3 is equivalent to 1 4/6. Now, when we add these together, we will notice that 4/6 plus 3/6 comes out to be an improper fraction. That would be 7/6. Okay? We add the whole numbers. 1 plus 1, of course, is 2. Now, we cannot leave our answer with an improper fraction. So when we look at this part right here, the 7/6, we should remember that that is equal to 1 1/6. So I already have 2, okay, for a whole number. And if the 7/6 is equal to 1 1/6, I simply add those together. And my final answer would be 3 1/6. In this next problem, you will notice that once again, the denominators are not the same. So the first thing we have to do is find a common denominator. In order to do that, we can multiply the two denominators together. 3 times 4 is 12, and change each of these to 12ths. Let's start out with the bottom one. What times 4 gives me 12? That would be 3. So if I multiply by 3 in my denominator, I do the same to my numerator. So 1 3/4 becomes 1 9/12. In the top one, what times 3 gives me 12? That would be 4. 4 times 2 in the numerator would be 8. So this would be 4 8/12. Again, add the fraction part first. 8/12 plus 9/12 is 17/12. That's again an improper fraction. 4 plus 1 is 5. Now when I see 17/12, I look at that part and I say, okay, if 12/12 is equal to 1 whole, then 17/12 would be 1 5/12. So I would add that to the 5. So I would go 5 plus 1 5/12, and I would end up getting 6 5/12. 5/12 will not simplify, so my final answer is 6 5/12. In this next problem, we see once again the denominators are not the same. So we could make them have the same number of pieces by simply multiplying 3 times 5 and making them both 15ths. Again, make sure you leave room to bring over your whole number. Okay, so let's start with the bottom one. What times 5 gives me 15? That would be 3. So if I multiply by 3 in my denominator, I must do the same to the numerator. 4 times 3 is 12, so 1 4/5 is the same as 1 12/15. In the top one, what times 3 gives me 15? That would, of course, be 5. So if I multiply by 5 in my denominator, I do the same to the numerator. 2 times 5 is 10. So 1 2/3 is the same as 1 10/15. Now we can go ahead and add. Now that the denominators are the same. 10/15 plus 12/15 is 22/15. Again, we see an improper fraction. 1 plus 1 in our whole numbers is 2. Now when I see this 22/15, I have to remember 15/15 would be 1 whole. So 22/15 would be 1 whole and 7/15 more. Okay, if I add that to my 2, which was my original whole number, I end up with 3 7/15. That will not simplify, so that is my final answer. Okay, in this next problem, first thing I'll ask myself is, are the denominators the same? And the answer here is yes. So if that is the case, we can simply add. 9/12 plus 3/12 comes out to be 12/12. 3 plus 1 is 4. Well, if 12/12 is 1 whole and 3 plus 1 is 4, our answer to this question is simply 5. I hope that you find this video useful and it will help you with adding mixed numbers.